Mike McWilliams upstairs to the Right Music channel. How's everybody doing out there this evening? Glad to see everybody. Let's make some adjustments here. Yeah, there we go. All right, that looks good. How is everybody doing? Well, whether you're joining us here live or if you're watching this on the rerun, it is much appreciated, as always. Always a pleasure to be here. Well, I was looking at something. Hey, hello, Ben. How you doing this week? Hope all is well. Hey, John. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. And this is, hey, Mickey. Good evening. Yeah, guys, good to see everybody here. I was looking at something interesting I thought I would open with tonight. Um, you know, hey, greetings. Hello, everybody. As you know, I'm really into Laney amps. Laney amps are kind of funny amps because they're not really a Marshall tone, but they're not really a Fender tone either, and they're certainly not a Vox tone. If I were to put my finger on the sound that you get out of a Laney amp, especially a combo amp, I would say it's like it's like a Marshall Light. It's like a hybrid between a Fender and a Marshall tone. And of course, that's because of the tubes that are used. That's primarily one of the things. But I like that tone. And I like the fact that because you might think that that's a bad thing that you can switch between, that has that kind of in-between sound to it. But actually, that's a good thing because it makes it a very versatile amp in terms of getting certain kind of tones. You can really dial, they say that you can't dial in cleans. I've had no problem. I think it's the speaker that you're using to dial in cleans with that thing. And as you've heard on many of the demo on this channel, I can certainly crank it. Now that's a 5-watt Laney amp, and it has a built-in attenuator that'll take it down to 1 watt. Well, Laney this week launches the LA Studio, low wattage supergroup tube head with onboard 2-note technology. So Laney has come out with a amp head that has a two notes torpedo built into it. Now it's a tube amp, so it's not solid state. It's a tube amp, but to incorporate that 2 notes technology into that amp head is fascinating to me because you could just sit something like that here and you can run pedals into it, I'm sure, and that would be it for you. That would be the end of all to be all in terms of getting your recordings at least to DAW. Because that's where actually, in my opinion, it has a little bit of a problem, is that you have to control it via software on a DAW if you really want to get everything out of that 2 notes. But other than that, it's a standard Laney tube head. But with that 2 notes technology built in, I thought it was very interesting. You need a USB, of course. It has a USB output on it, is what I'm trying to say. But you do need something like this Behringer over here to input it into. You can't use the USB for audio out. So that's another limitation, but it's 3 watts. You can get it down to 0.1 watts, which is bedroom recording levels. Because it's an amp head, you can of course hook it up to whatever cabinet, 1x12, 2x12, 4x12 you want, and you can rock it out that way too. So it's a very versatile thing. It's really blending tube amps and digital thing. It's making them all into one. I have the same thing going here essentially with my pedal board. The amps are simulated through pedals, so it's solid state. But so it's a solid state version of what this new Laney does. But that thing brings it all down into one unit. Now it's $1,138 as of the time of this show. So it's a little pricey. My Laney combo amp that I have, the Club 12. I think it was retailing at about $500 at the time that I bought it, and I got it at a discount. So, yeah, twice the price of my Laney combo. Will I be giving up on that for this one? No, no. But I do find it interesting to have these tube amps technology and the digital technology really coming together in a very versatile amp head like this. I'd be very interested to see what people think about it. It's a pricey thing, like I said, but it's moving in the right direction in terms of recording. For somebody like me, to get that crank tube amp sound all in one unit that goes directly into my DAW. Well, not directly into my DAW, but through the Behringer and then to software controlled through my DAW. That sounds fantastic. I mean that is great. As you know, I have the two notes, Torpedo 8. I had it and used it with my Laney 1x12 combo to record some tracks on my album, some of the later tracks that I did. And I wasn't as happy as I was with this solid state pedal setup I have right here. I just wasn't as happy with it. I have to be honest with you guys. Really, there's a lot of noise there. There's a noise factor there, even when using that two notes cab 8. This thing right here is really quiet. These pedals that I have are very quiet. They're not noisy pedals. The noisiest one I have is the Joyo California Sound, and it's what is that, a $20 pedal? So it's going to happen. The other ones are just as quiet as kittens. So yeah, I'm not sold on this. I'm not going to sell the farm to buy this unit. I'd have to hear it. I'd have to hear a few demos on it. Its tone is based on the Black Sabbath sound. Believe it or not, that's how they're marketing it. How does the two notes work for an attenuator though? Well, it does the job, it does the job, and even more so, if you have a favorite combo amp or amp head that you like the sound of, and you just want to practice using it, you can plug in headphones and just, and do it that way through your tube amp, and you don't have a lot of people knocking on your door. As an attenuator, I have this Power Soak here attenuator up here. That's a dedicated attenuator. I think it does a better job. The two notes attenuator, if you're using it just for that, then there's better options. My opinion. But yeah, this thing here, switchable to 0.1 watts. Talk about bedroom levels, Even if you were running that through a cabinet, 1x12, 2x12, you're at 0.1 watts, those are bedroom playing levels. So you can practice out. So it's a very versatile thing. It's got a lot of pretty cool stuff in it. And like I said, the technology is heading in the right direction. I'm impressed. So I thought I would bring that to you guys' attention. Again, that's the Laney LA Studio. Again, based on the Tommy Iommi Black Sabbath, tone. Apparently, according to this article, the original idea came about, where is that? In 1968, they built a prototype, the LA 30BL tube amp head, and they shrunk it down from a 30-watt platform down to a 3-watt platform and stuck the two note stick with a built-in attenuator in it. you know, it's moving in the right direction. I like that concept of having that two notes built into an amp. Now, whether or not you like the Black Sabbath tone is up to you. Uh, you know, you're definitely getting. Well, anyway, I'll leave that alone. I was going to tackle the whole dad rock issue this week, and just music in general. Something that I was having a conversation with a friend of mine over dinner this week. But I think I'll table that for tonight and move on to the next subject, which is our main topic tonight: to build or to mod. Yeah. Purna is one of my favorite albums. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that album too. Actually, it's been a long time since I've heard that. On YouTube, I think I mentioned this before. There is a 1970 Black Sabbath concert that just went up within the last few months. That you guys got to check out. Ozzy is at his best. Vocally, and the band is just tight. They were really something to hear, and it's something to enjoy. I like that tone. I like the tone that he was getting. SG, that has a lot to do with it. That's another thing about these. I'm sorry, we'll get to the main topic here in a second, but I have a little sidetrack regarding this also point. Now that I think about it, is these amps that they say, okay, this is based on the Black Sabbath sound or this, that, or the other. Man, there are so many things in that recording chain in order to make that Black Sabbath sound that, you really should just let amps speak for themselves. If it's a tone that people dig and they say, man, that thing sounds great, there's no need to try to put a label on it like that. And also, the reason I was bringing about the dad rock kind of thing is because you're limiting who you're going to market that to as well. Tommy on Me, geez, with Humbuckers just came out. Yeah, the Epiphone. Yeah. Again, and this falls into that too. The whole dad rock thing. Who's this marketing to? We all here are familiar with Black Sabbath and Tommy, and a lot of younger cats are, but that's not really their thing or their tone. I would just, in the case of the guitar, okay, it's a signature guitar, that's fine. But in the case of this Laney amp, there was no need, in my opinion, to try to put that Black Sabbath tone, kind of concept into the promotion for it. Certainly, again, you don't want to limit, what somebody might do with that. Somebody in a whole take the amp and use it for a whole different direction, but you don't want them thinking that that's not at least the starting point for the direction that I want. Just let the amp speak for themselves. Tommy Iommi had an SG. I believe it was a 65, 66. I'd have to look at the pick guard. His amps, we know what those were. And then in the recording studio, God knows whatever else was put on that. So, if you listen to the live performance there on YouTube, you do get a truer sense of what it is, because it's raw. It's just the guitar and the amp. But to replicate that, good luck. 61 of the Monkey. Oh, yeah. That's right. It's a 61. That is correct. Thank you. 61, because, yeah. So, but he's had a couple. The black one that he plays in that concert, I swear that's a 65 or 66. Take a look at it, guys. It's on YouTube. It's worth taking a look at. But yeah, just leave that alone. Because I think you're really, if you're marketing to older cats, who may or may not be chasing that sound, okay, you'll pique their interest. I would just sell it as a tube amp that has two notes technology built into it, and then that'll get a lot of people excited, because that kills a lot of birds with one stone. It really does, if you set it up right. To build or to mod, When I was at the vintage guitar show and was looking around, I think you can see it in the footage. There's this one guy that was selling just the blank bodies. He had a couple of different shapes there, some strats, telly shapes, flying V he had. So you can see that in the footage, just blanks. And I hope you guys can't hear that. I've got an alarm going off here outside. But it's very distracting too. But I shall persevere. It dawned on me as I was looking at those, hey, we, there was a thread that I was looking at too. Follow me, guys. That was the subject of a guy taking one of the Epiphone 59s. It might have even been a Lazarus. I can't remember, but one of those higher end Epiphones, and he was stripping everything away. He was going to redo it, just make it, his own. Stripped the laminate off, stripped all the poly down. He was going to hit it with nitro instead, the neck, the back, the whole thing. And it was gorgeous. And, eventually I think what happened there at the end, there was some cracks in it. He was looking up through the toggle switch cavity with the toggle switch out, and apparently there was something in there. Some where light was leaking through, and for some reason that was a deal breaker to the guy. I was like, well, you sanded the veneer off, you did all that, so there was a multitude of sins that were being covered by that veneer. So I didn't know why he got so picky at the end, but he said he sent it back. But it got me thinking about the cost that he was putting into modding that guitar. It would have been better for him just to build one. I mean, the amount of, you got to think about it, the amount of hours that it would take. First, you've got to take a heat gun to start working that poly and get through that veneer to start even thinking about stripping that down. And then, that's hours and hours worth of work there. And then the back and the neck and the headstock, throw that in as well. Cleaning out the cavity, rewiring, putting everything back on. If you started with a blank and bought yourself a neck, sound like Eddie Van Halen? It might be actually I don't know if it'd be cheaper. It would be, maybe it would end up cheaper or about the same to just to buy. So I thought I would throw it out there to you guys. I thought it was interesting to have those two things, going on in my head that week. I was seeing those blank guitar bodies. Again, like I said, look at the vintage Vinidal Vintage 2022, the last show that I did this week, and you can see them. That Flying V blank was just clean. It was nice. I was thinking to myself, I was tempted. I was sorely tempted, but I just can't see myself taking on any new projects at the moment. Certainly something like that, I would have to acquire a neck for it, but that's not a hard thing to do. I know a guy in Sweden has a company that just all he does is buy and sell necks all day. He buys and trades them. He gets them from different sources. So and then you're picking my electronics. I could have Fern put it together, and even at the fee that he would charge, I thought I would probably come out ahead instead of trying to take something that already was built and turning it into something else. So that's a really gets down to, I don't know how you guys personally feel about it. Where in your life experiences that you have come across maybe a similar thought in regards to your instruments. I am of the thought, however, if you're, for me, if a guitar has good bones, I've said this before, if it has good bones, then sure, everybody's going to make some change or some modification that they see fit. like a bone nut. Some guy might say, well, I don't like the synthetic plastic, synthetic bone nut, whatever, and I want to have a real bone nut, so you'll make mods like that, but you're not making drastic changes to the color of the guitar, for example. And so if you're not doing something like that, then I would go with modding. You can get that done quicker, and of course, a few small mods will obviously be a cheaper thing to do. Now, on the other hand, the reason I was tempted with that Flying V is because I thought to myself, well, if I took my time, we have both a lot of strats in my specs that always come out really nice. Yeah. Some of you guys, like I said, your experiences. You've built, some of you guys out there have actually gone ahead and went the build route. And I admire the hell out of that. Any of you guys out there who have done that, I admire that. I haven't done that. Um, I've been toying around with learning about staining. I've actually got some samples over here where just recently I was playing around with stain and just trying to understand how to get that, because that's something in itself. It has to be warm days, temperature has to be even, or you'll get bubbling in it, it'll get uneven. A lot of tricks to that. But to actually, put a guitar together like that um, is amazing. And my hat's off to you. And I started to say this might be the opportunity for me to do that. Now, of course, the Vendal show will again be coming about in March of next year. God willing, we're all still here, and the world hasn't completely blown itself to shreds between now and then. But that aside, if I see that again, I might actually buy one of those. As a matter of fact, I don't think I might actually buy one. I might be. I hope that vendor is there. Probably will be. Probably will be. I'll have to look at the footage. I didn't get a name, unfortunately. I should have grabbed a card. I was just too busy filming stuff and trying to get as much stuff as I could. Didn't I? Did you guys see that footage? Did I or did I not tell you it was dark as? I mean, seriously, it was. It really was shopping by candlelight in there, and some, especially the back corners. Uh, you know, I think again that was a power show. I think they were really having the lights down because the cost of electricity is pretty astronomical over here. So I don't fault them for that, but it was kind of dark. It really was, and some of the footage I just had to completely discard because it was just too dark to use. But yeah, if in March rolls around again, I'm going to do that. I'm going to buy that Flying V, and then I'm going to source a Flying V neck. Um, it's got to be, I like a 59 neck, so it's got to be, no, not a 58 or 57 neck, but I like a thick neck. I'll source the tuners, everything, and maybe have the guy in Croatia whine a set of pickups for it. And I might just actually, because I always wanted a Flying V, believe it or not. I had a poster of Hendrix in my room when I was a kid with a Flying V. Hey, good evening. Thanks for showing up. Yeah, man. So I always dug one of those, and I really wonder, what the sonic tone of those are, because that's all solid mahogany, as I seem to recall. Um, but yeah, so that's something I might do. So for a project like that, certainly. Hey, welcome from Ireland to us all. That's great. I'm glad you made it, man. We're talking about, the advantages of building a guitar from scratch. I love my Flying V, plays great, sounds awesome, and it's light. Yeah, I picked up that blank, the Flying Bleed, and that was a thing that I liked about it. It was light. It was light. And I was thinking to myself, if you slap some electronics on this, try to get a neck, that's not too heavy in itself. And you might have yourself some here. Of course, I would have to do the paint job. It would have to, I'd have to do all of that, or leave it natural and stain it. I was thinking might be a way to go too. Um, but I've kind of always wanted an Olympic white Flying V with gold hardware. Yeah, some Liberace level stuff. But I kind of wanted that. And so I might do that. But modding, uh, like in the case of my 59, if I sit here and think about how much I put into it, well, I lost. I have to take a minus on the pickups because I took the Gibson burst bucker 2 and 3 out. Wow, I said it correct this time. I always mess up on burst bucker. I always say that wrong for some reason. Tonight I'm on a roll. I took those out and I actually put in those Epiphone Alnico Classic Pros in instead and dig those pickups a lot. They're Alnico 5 magnets. I like Alnico 5 magnets as opposed to 2 in the burst buckers. And it just has a growl to it now. So I actually, that was kind of a downgrade in some people's eyes. From a financial standpoint, a downgrade. From a sonic standpoint, in my case, in my opinion, it was an upgrade. Then the Lola Electronics, if you guys remember that when I first got it a couple of years, coming up on 2 years ago now, coming up here in a little bit, I swapped out all the electronics for Lola pots and caps, and I had a small heart attack when I got the bill for that. It wasn't cheap, but still, if I add all the mods up that I've done to it, subtracting the cost of the burst buckers, and because that was just a swap, and and I can sell those and you get the money back on those if I want to, because those are great pickups. Yeah, I maybe put a couple $100 in. So it wasn't a bad thing, and the bone nut, another set, 250. I put in 260. Worth every penny, and because the guitar had basic good bones. So when you have a guitar that has our bass that has basic good bones to it, then doing the light mod route, or even if you dig out the electronics, whatever, is an easier way to go as opposed to going out, unless it's got to be, I've got to have, the guitar's got to be the same color as Jimmy Page's number 2 burst, for example. And then, so that's something that you're going to have to work on yourself. Or unless you find something that has a similar comparable top to what it is that you're looking at, then the mod thing would be the easy way to go. Building from scratch, I got to imagine, and I'll let you know once I do it. I can imagine, however, that's got a certain amount of satisfaction to it too. And whatever it is, that guitar, that Flying V, it won't be a Gibson, it won't be an Epiphone, it'll be a microphone. So, especially if I take it to a Luther like Fern to put the final assembly, I can gather all the parts and say, hey man, do your thing and make this tight. At the end of the day, I'm sure I would be just as happy with it as if I bought an Epiphone Flying V. I saw one of those at the show. Or a Gibson, if you could find one. Copy, not the originals. Yeah, man, just something to think about. I don't know where you fall in that camp. It really depends. It's not a right or wrong kind of situation. As I've been saying, it really just depends on the situation you're in. I think the guy that stripped that Epiphone 59 down, I think that in his case that was extreme. To go through all that work, strip that thing down like that, and then get mad because there was a hole, there was light coming through one of the seams at the control cavity. Well, you put, that could have been, it wasn't that it was air escaping, it was showing through. I'm sure there was glue where those two pieces were joining. He saw that, but he just, that's just the worst thing. So he sent it back. And I said, my God, all the work that you put into that, you could have just built one from scratch. You apparently certainly have more than the skills required in order to do it. So I couldn't see myself taking my 59 and making that kind of level of mod, trying to change the top or sand down the neck or do anything like that. It's a kind of an anathema to me. I wouldn't do it. It's got good bones. And anyway, you know that old saying, you don't look a gift horse in the mouth. And when that guy shone that bright light through that toggle switch cavity and saw, I think it's where the seam of the multi pieces were joined together. He saw one of the seams and flipped out. You know, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. If you hadn't stripped it down, you would have never seen that. You know, and it doesn't affect the playability of the thing. And you would think, okay, this is an opportunity to maybe do a refinish and fill in those gaps. So I'm not sure what was going on with that guy. And that is a situation where I think it's a waste of time to do that level of mod. If you're going to nitpick when you get down to finishing it up like that. I mean, he was literally almost finished. He was almost done. He was putting all the electronics in and came across that, and somehow that was just the end of the world for him. But different strokes for different folks. How are we doing here? Okay, guys, I want to have a little fun tonight and talk about something different. I came across a list. Hold on here. It is somewhere. Oh, here it is. All right. So, I told you the story of me getting started, as a kid. I was watching a documentary the other day, and they were talking about 70s radio, and they described it as being eclectic. When I was 10 years old in 1977. My brother was 13, so of course, as a teenager, he was listening to teenage music, and being his younger brother was filtering down to me. So just to give you an idea of where we're talking about. And then the music culture of that time, the radio was very diverse. It wasn't just pigeonholed into this is rock, this is rap, this is classical, jazz, whatever. It was really, well, jazz did have its own channel, KKGO in Los Angeles, but the pop music of the time really was a mixture of everything, and I feel sorry for a lot of people who missed out on that, because of course that really meant that everybody was competing. Stevie Wonder was competing with Helen Reddy, and I'm sure none of you out there know who that is. But she was a big singer at that time. And so everybody, it wasn't just one genre. We weren't just trying to get the best, pop album of the year or best rap album of the year. You're trying to get the best album of the year, and it really meant something back then. In 1980, I discovered not only that there was a diversity in terms of music on the radio that I was being exposed to, but also through movies as well. Of course, I saw all the black exploits. I had a friend in my neighborhood. His dad was a writer, and he wrote a lot of what were called black exploitation novels. These were novels where the main protagonist generally was, either he was a detective like Shaft, or he was a pimp like Iceberg Slim, things of this nature. But I had a friend whose dad wrote those kind of books, and he was one of the few guys that I knew at that time who had an early VCR. And his dad had a lot of those movies, and I got to see Sparkle, which is a very early movie from the early 70s about a girl group. It's kind of based loosely on the Supremes, and that was my introduction to movie music. Fast forward to 1980, I still can't believe I'm saying this story. My mother took me to see heavy metal. We went to go see the movie, which was an R-rated movie, and I was 1980. Yeah, it's 13. You know, so took me to go see heavy metal, and that started off my real um, love for rock music, love for R&B music through some of the stuff I heard over my friend's house. Records like Parliament Funkadelic I was listening to at another friend's house, and then hearing rock music in a movie like Heavy Metal. And my God, what music! That album to this day still stands up. Just hit me, floored me, especially when you're getting hit with a really good 70, actually late 70s sound system in a movie theater. It was an exciting thing. So I was thinking back on those times, and by the way, my mother, bless her heart, isn't feeling well these days. She's a little ill. So your thoughts, positive thoughts and vibes in her direction are appreciated. So this one's for my mom. This story, she took her 13-year-old son to see heavy metal, and if you guys haven't seen that, the South Park parody that they did is pretty much what sums it up. Yeah, very well sums it up. But I was thinking of other rock and roll movies that influenced me. And I thought maybe you guys also might have some that influence you as well that you might want to share this evening. But I found this list, and it's the top. Wait a second. Where is this? Well, the 10 best movies about rock and roll or featuring rock and roll. And I was reading through this list. Number 10 is not there. I don't even know what that movie is. Number 9 is Wayne's World. Now, Wayne's World, yeah, big time influence, especially resurrecting Queen, Bohemian Rhapsody, because another situation where you get to hear that in a movie theater and got the audience and you're just really getting that sonic hit. I remember sitting there hearing that, and of course the Stairway to Heaven joke in it. No, don't play Stairway to Heaven in the music store. A lot of that stuff is classic, and a lot of stuff is really adapted into a rock kind of nomenclature, kind of our thing. Wayne's World is a fantastic film. Yeah, it's one of my favorite. They're calling it here on this list as a top 10 rock and roll music, but it's just a funny movie. It's comedy, but rock is a big part of it. Big part of it. So yeah, I'll give them. I would say that Wayne's World shouldn't even be at number 9. I'd have to say it had to be slightly higher. I'm not saying top 5, but number 9's a little high on the list. Next one is School of Rock. School of Rock is funny. It came out a long time ago, and you would think that it'd be a movie that eventually that I would see as many opportunities as Netflix offers you to see it. But I've never seen it. Have you guys seen School of Rock, and what do you think? Does it rate above Wayne's World? I don't think so. I don't hear anybody quoting School of Rock, or am I missing it or something? So I call this list into question. I call shenanigans. Next one is the Nowhere Boy. Again, another movie I haven't heard of. Why that's over Wayne's World, I do not know. The next movie is The Doors, and that's the Oliver Stone Doors movie. Yeah, man, I've got to give that one. That's one of my favorites. The story of Jim Morrison and The Doors. If you really want to go down a rabbit hole, if you're the type of person that likes to get into, music business intrigue, then the story of Jim Morrison and the Doors, Oliver Stone is a brilliant man, so he knew this as well. And if you watch that movie with a little bit of background in mind, you can see where he was hinting that this was all theater. The Doors. What a band. Yeah, guys. Should I get into this? The Doors have a really odd beginning. You have to remember that Jim Morrison's dad was a rear Navy admiral. As a matter of fact, Admiral Morrison was the guy who started the Gulf of Tonkin event, the one that launched the Vietnam War. That was his dad. Um, there's a picture of him standing on the deck of his dad's battleship. 1 year with short hair, kind of pudgy face, wearing normal 60s clothes. 1 year later, he's got starting to get that length of hair, complete change of clothes, wearing black, leather, the whole nine. It's as if in that period of time he reinvented himself. He was going to film school at the time. There was really no interest in music. And Ray Manzarek, the keyboard player as well, wasn't really a keyboard player at the time. So, guys, and so just an interesting story with the Doors there. Um, you know, uh, Session players. I'm going to throw that. I'll just go there. I'll say that much about it. Session players, guys. A lot of session playing was done. The Monkees, for example. The Monkees weren't playing their instruments. They had session, guys doing that music. And the Doors, to some extent were no different, So there's that. So yeah, the Doors. Definitely, I would go with that. Rocket Man, which I believe is the Elton John biography. Yeah, that's interesting. I haven't seen it. The next one on the list is Bohemian Rhapsody. I just recently saw that one. As a matter of fact, right now, the reason I thought to have this conversation tonight, I'm in the middle of the Beatles Get Back three-part film on Netflix, which is fascinating. Guys, wow, what fantastic thing Peter Jackson has done piecing that footage together. If you guys haven't seen it and you're a true music instrument buff, you can see there's a Quiet Modern films on this list. Yeah, I'll get to that point about this list. Let me get into the sidetrack about the Get Back into a film. Because it's really fascinating to see the instruments that they're using. John pretty much well stuck to that Epiphone Casino. That was it for that whole session. George Harrison switched between his 1960 Les Paul and his what is that? That's actually a brand new Fender. The Fender sent that over to him, so that was a '68 Fender Telecaster that he had. And those were the two guitars that he used, and they didn't deviate. But the thing is that you can get in the amps as well, the Fender amps that they used. You can Rosewood Telecaster, yeah, that Rosewood Telecaster, which by the way, is just a beauty. It's a gorgeous, and it's brand new. And you're looking at now, of course, if you were to go to a museum, Beatles museum, and see it. I'm sure it looks worse for wear, but then it was brand new. They brought out a Fender Rhodes, which was brand new, a Stage 88, for Billy Preston to play, and that thing was brand new. I had one of those, and believe me, mine didn't look like that when I had it in 1993, 94. Yeah, it didn't look spanking brand new like that, but what a history. To see how the recording process as well, how they did, the microphones that they use, the amps they use, the guitars that they use. It's just a lot of information in there. It's like the song remains the same, which is not on this list, which I can't believe their number one on this list is Almost Famous. Almost Famous is a great movie, but there's no way that it comes across like the song remains the same. I haven't really talked about that because I didn't see the song remains the same until a heavily edited version of it showed up on ABC TV late night around 1981 or 1982. That's the first time that I saw that. And so that was after heavy metal. And that reignited, well, didn't even reignite. it got the eye of Sauron, my musical eye of Sauron, focusing in on Led Zeppelin for the first time, really seriously. I told you before, I hadn't paid them attention. That same summer of 1980, when my mom took me to go see heavy metal, I went on a camping trip with some kids in my neighborhood, and there was this girl, May. I think I told you guys this story, and we were up in Canada, in BC, this cabin. We were just sitting around talking. I was like, "Yeah, I like music. I play piano a little bit in this. I want to do music." And she was like, "Well, what do you think about Led Zeppelin?" And I heard their music, but I didn't know their name or who they were at that point. And I was like, yeah, Led Zeppelin. I dig him. He's pretty cool. That Led guy. And she kind of looked at me like, that girl, that look of scorn that only a 13-year-old girl can give a 13-year-old boy. But yeah, but later on, a couple of years later, not too much later, I saw it, and it was a huge influence on me. Hell, that Kiss movie. I think we talked about that Kiss movie, the Phantom of the Park. How many? Have you guys seen that one? How many out there has seen Kiss Phantom of the Park from 1978? I think you can find some that on YouTube, at least a little bit, so you can get a sense for what it was. A big influence too. And I remember I was in junior high school, and everybody in the junior high school that day was like, "Man, you gonna watch Kiss tonight? You gonna watch Kiss tonight?" It was a big thing. I know it sounds weird, now to think, a TV show about, Kiss goes to Magic Mountain. That's a big thing. But yeah, it was a big thing. But these were influences. So yeah, this list is a lot of modern movies. There was an HBO Jimi Hendrix movie that was awesome. Yeah, the Jimi Hendrix movie is with Andre 3000, or is it? Yeah, Andre 3000. Yeah, I caught that one as well. Didn't do as well. A lot of people, for some reason, it didn't get the kind of traction that it should have. These biopics that are coming out, the Bohemian Rhapsody one that was on that list, the story was kind of a bullshit story because the order was kind of wrong, especially there towards the end of his life. That's not exactly the way it went down. But it gave the gist of it, though. And it reintroduced me to that song, Having a Good Time. Night, I'm gonna have myself a good time. What is that? What is that? Anybody know that song? Stopping me, grinding through the night, yeah. 100, I can't think of the title of that. I know all the lyrics. 100 degrees, that's why they call me Mr. Fahrenheit. I'm faster, I'm gonna make a supersonic woman of you. Don't stop me now. Don't stop me now. Yeah, that song was from a TV show. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure if you're talking about "Don't Stop Me Now," I'm sure it's been used. It was used in Hot Fuzz or one of those movies I saw it in. That was the last time I heard it. One of those British comedies, and I didn't really pay attention to it. What about Eli? Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Yeah, heavy influence of that's a rock movie as well. I'll give you that one. Yeah, certainly. All the sequels to that one, and then this very last one that they came out with. No, I think they lost the spirit of that. That first movie. I don't know what it was. It was kind of like a magic in a bottle, and it's hard to recreate that kind of vibe. But yeah, Don't Stop Me Now, so much so that I sat down at the piano and started working it out because I like those chords so much. I have fond memories of kid as watching the Blues Brothers. Oh, thank you. Thanks, guys. See, this is what I'm talking about. Let's hear from you because the Blues Brothers, a big influence. Boy, man. Oh, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I'm from LA. And at the movie theater, right off the Santa Monica movie house, I don't know if it's still there or not. Right off the 10 freeway, Santa Monica Freeway, every Friday night for years at midnight, they would do the Rocky Horror Picture Show. where some people go in and dress up, and I didn't dress up, but I actually went because there's this girl that I like. You know the story. She's like, "Let's go see the Rock Horror Picture Show." I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's go see the Rock Horror Picture Show. Whatever you like, darling." And I went to go check that, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I had seen it before, and everybody knew the words and sang along, and it was fun. It was fun, and it was a happening. You had to be there. Fortunately, I lived in LA, and I had a lot of happenings. I realize now that I was lucky to live there because there were so many things that I just happened to walk into. Blues Brothers, yeah. My dad. Whatever you want, darling. Whatever you want. It's all right with me. Isn't that what Babyface said? Yeah, Blues Brothers, my dad loved that movie. We actually went to go see 1982. The great movie of like Tommy, Pink Floyd's The Wall. Yeah, 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 it's right. Tommy, The Wall. Man, my brother's best friend, Danny Z, that guy played The Wall over and over. It gave me a headache. I actually, to this day, I kind of have a like dislike for that album because that and The Dark Side of the Moon, my God, he played those albums all the time. Good, but it's just like sugar. You don't want too much. Blues Brothers, yeah, that really was for you know, reintroducing people to that 50s and 60s stack sound, which is fantastic, which is really worth, celebrating just in itself. So, yeah, if you guys think about that, I'm throwing this out there and talking about this because if you think about yours, I was thinking about my life, and I'm sure if you think about yours, you can think about movies like The Blues Brothers, or Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, or Song Remains the Same, or The Last Waltz, or any number of these films that influenced you or touched you, artistically, or or just part of your lives. Yellow Submarine by the Beatles. Yeah, man, that movie used to play on Channel 5 back in the early 70s all the time. That was my big introduction to the Beatles. And again, my brother's friend Danny Z, he and his sister Ann, they were big Beatles fans, especially his sister Ann because she was 3 years older than him, makes her 6 years older than me. The Last Waltz, yeah, that's why I mentioned it. The Last Waltz is one of my favorites of myself as well, the band. Woodstock, again, the Woodstock film, if you guys have seen the Woodstock. I know I have because I got to see Santana. Yeah, the Beatles, like I said, with the Zumwalt family, they were the ones that really got me into the Beatles. But that Yellow Submarine animated thing, I know it by heart. And I know those songs. Big influence as I was a kid. A sound that's part of it. But yeah, just think about it, guys. Think about it. We could sit here all night and talk about the different ones that really are the soundtracks to different moments in our lives. Like I said, wonderful music full of influences. Yeah, like Santana at Woodstock. Everybody always talks about Jimi Hendrix at Woodstock, but Santana at Woodstock, that's the performance. Now, as he tells the story, as Carlos Santana tells the story, he dropped acid. As a matter of fact, the entire band, the one you're watching now is number one in my mind. Yeah, the Beatles thing. It's a good one. But Santana was high on acid. And he said he thought the neck of the guitar was a snake. And he was fighting the snake. But you think, when you look at it, you just look at it, well, this is a musician who's really into the groove and who's really concentrating on what he's playing. No, he was high as a kite. I mean, literally, to the point where he was like, he was almost about to walk off. He's like, I can't. it was do or die time, and he just went for it, man, on acid, and produced one of my favorite, especially the conga player, if you guys can think about that. Just the sound of that, you know. So yeah, man, a lot of this stuff, and you draw on sometimes, you know. Yeah, that Yellow Submarine movie. It's funny you should mention that because that Beatles sound is what I use for my song "The Well." That's what we were discussing it a few weeks back when I was playing it for you guys. I was drawing on that period, that Sergeant Pepper period of the Beatles, and listening and reading about and learning what George Martin was doing in the studio, and yeah. So there again, that's something that I was reaching way back in the closet, so to speak, to pull that one out, take a look at it, and see if I can make it work for something that I was doing. But yeah, so it's not just the radio, guys; it's movies as well. Especially with me and a lot of you guys being the age that we are, because it really was the age of the drive-in theater. It really was the age of the movie theater. Then it became the age of the Betamax and VHS. Um, and some things were events, like the Kiss the thing. Was, I still remember my friend Buddy, and man, in junior high school, but he was racing. He was betting on horses. Anyway, that's the whole story. But I loved him, and he was just so excited, and I checked it out. But just a big part of my life that I can draw back on and remember. And so yeah, I thought that we would talk about that, round out this evening's discussion. I'm sure it touched a memory, and a couple of you guys out there bringing this subject up. It can't all be about effects pedals and things. Sometimes we gotta dig a little deeper inside of ourselves, if we want to get true inspiration. These things, man. These are tools. To me. It's funny how songs take you back. Yeah. Well, yeah, that's another thing too, though. From a psychology standpoint, especially, if you're dealing with, advertising again, they use music exactly in that manner to draw you back. It's infantilism, to put you in a state. And that's why some people, then if you don't grow musically or if you don't bring new things in, then you're really reverting to a state of infantilism, which is not a bad thing. As I said, in this case, we're drawing from that in order to use the creative process, but they use it against you. TV commercials are the number one example of that. How many times have you sat there watching a game or watching something and they hit you with the song and a commercial like that just takes you back? Well, that's the psychology. That's why they do it. That's why they pay those cats, millions of dollars to buy their catalog so that they can continue to do that. But in this case, we're drawing forth from it for inspiration. Again, these things are just, pedals are just tools. These things, guitars and all this stuff are tools. The inspiration really is drawn from within. You're only as intelligent as the music that you take in. And I really believe that. That's why I hate gangster rap music, because I think that it just lowers your IQ. And I'm not going to make any arguments for that. I just really believe that's why I refuse to listen to it. That and a dozen other things. But music can elevate you mentally as well. It can take your mind places. And a lot of those movies, the visual images and the music, when you put those together, it really can jumpstart your creativity. So if you haven't done it, guys, if you haven't done it in a while, maybe this week or this weekend coming up, dig through your movie collection and maybe dig up one of those movies that we talked about tonight. And we talked about quite a few, and I want to thank you guys for sharing your thoughts on the movies that you guys think about, and maybe rewatch them or watch them again. I'm going to continue to dig into this Beatle. I'm halfway through, so I'm going to continue to dig into this Beatles documentary. I'm really enjoying it. You know, sometimes, God, I wish I could just teleport back to those times. With a couple of gold pieces in my pocket, cash those, get some pounds, hit up all the shops, and come back with all of that gear. Because my God, another gold like the '90s, the late '60s, early '70s was just a golden age for music instruments and gear. But if you get a chance, look at a movie this week. Look at one of the movies we talked about. Think about it. Go down that memory road. Let that positive infantilism. Don't let the TV commercials rule you, but let the moment, the inspiration. Like I said, my mom take me to heavy metal. A date to the Rocky Horror Picture Film, something like that. Something to take you there, and let that be your inspiration for the week. Guys, we're going to wrap it up here. I want to thank you so much for tuning in again for the live stream. I thank you so much for watching. It means a lot to me that you guys showed up again this evening. We will be doing this week A and B of the Fender 65 Deluxe Reverb pedal against the, what is this? The F1 pedal. Both Fender sounds. We're going to A and B those, and you can determine which one you like. And I'm really going to upsell this Fender 65 Deluxe pedal because it really does have a great tone to it once you use it correctly, and we'll talk about that. So that's coming up. For anybody out there who's just listening to the night live stream new, if you're watching on the rerun at this point and you haven't subscribed yet, hit that subscription button. If you guys like this one, hit the like button. And thank you so much for showing up this week. You guys have a good week. Take care of yourselves. See ya. Bye.